Good morning, time for coffee and sports. This morning I'm going to do a tutorial. So one of our subscribers and customers said he received his book and he would just like a walkthrough of team creation and off-season. So in this video I will make a team and then we will pretend a season results and we'll do an off-season. Okay, so let's get started. Now my book is an early, very first version 1 coil bound. I printed this the minute I got. I put this together on Lulu and printed it for me. The very first PDF that I got from Dell. So my book might be a little different than everybody else's out there. As this is like version beta. This was like beta, well, not quite beta. I mean, this was ready. It was completely ready. But the point is, mine is in very, very early PDF. I've had it printed before Dell and I had completely signed off on it as finished. So some of my page numbers may be slightly different. Some of my terminology may be slightly different. But either way, the concepts have not changed. The game is exactly what the game. Okay, so one of the first things you're going to do when you are creating teams is decide the kind of league you're going to have. Are you going to have an early era tight economic system? You're going to have a normal one, which would be like the 70s, 80s, like the 60s, 70s, 80s football, or you're going to have a prosperous style, era of team, which would be, I would say, the late 90s, 2000s to today. This dictates how much money your teams start with, what the cash cap is, what their replacement money is, and what their expansion money is. Okay. So my league is a tight league, and I started with the hard financial variant. So all of my teams have zero cash in my league, which means there's going to be a good chance some of my teams will fold up or be on they're going to be on the verge of complete collapse in 2 years. And that was fine. My goal was to set up an early era league that might not survive. Right? I wanted to, experience that. Okay. But first off, we're going to say we're at a tight league. So I'm going to assume this team is tight, in a tight financial, and this would be early era for the most part, tight, which means all my teams will have $2 in cash, right? But anyway, let's make Washington. I'm going to make the Washington. Washington Lawmen. Right, there we go. The Washington Lawmen. All right, I'm going to go back here. If you follow this, so let me put it this way: with Dell's games, they are literal. So if all else fails, just follow them literally. If you're having trouble understanding Dell's games, or just it's literal. If he says it, do it. If he doesn't say it, you generally don't. How do I say this? If he doesn't inform of something, you can your natural instincts of what that means is probably true. Okay, so if Dell doesn't say, I'm trying to think of an example. Again, literal, but if you have a natural instinct that, oh, this is going to be this, you can trust that. It's not going to break the game, and it's probably 100% correct. But anyway, let's get on to the... So he suggests when you create teams, it's the Appendix A, I believe, is the creation module. Here it is, random club generation. So he talks about club identity. That's going to be, are you an offensive club or are you a defensive club? Club flaw, which you're going to roll these, by the way. Remember, steps are just telling you what you're going to do, but these will be rolled up randomly. You don't just choose. Then you're going to verify certain things based on those rolls. and you're going to roll for a core strength check. And then finally, you're going to wrap it up with assigning coaches, right? Okay. You can do this in whatever you want. I've named my team. I'm going to name my coaches, even though I won't roll my coaches yet. My head coach, my OC, my DC, and my special teams coach. And he does suggest an assistant coach. I'm not going to mess with assistant coaches, right? So I have a head coach, OC, DC, and special teams. I'm going to give them names, and he has a naming algorithm in here, which is very cool. So we'll start by naming our team, first picking your league environment, financial environment, which is tight. So this is I'm going to make this the 1933 leagues in a tight economic environment. And where the heck is his? I always name my own coaches and things generally, but he has a very cool coach naming thing that I forgot was in here. I saw it this morning, and now for some reason I cannot find his coach naming. There it is. D20. Okay. So there's a example of needing an extra die, D20, for coach names. All right, so my head coach is 3. Walter. Let's see if it's Walter White. 3. Oh, 3. Donovan. Walter Donovan. My OC is 19. Leo. 17. Leo Mercer. 17 is Ben. 4. Ben Keegan. And my special teams coach is Art. 1. Art Harlan. Okay, my teams are named. All right, so there are 8 ratings. There are 2 main ratings, offense and defense. These are identities, ultimately. Well, there's a couple of things that can be identities, but they're the chief ratings for the drive-by-drive charts. They'll set your edge, whether you're going to be facing a defense or causing a defense, or you're going to be even against your opponent, or you're going to be an offensive team, or you're going to be facing an offensive team. At the start, you're only going to have, at best, a +1 in either of those. However, as your career develops, you could do others. You could have different. Okay, it's not easy to really do, but there's nothing to say it couldn't happen, right? Now, in the beginning, fictional teams, those are impossible results, right? But again, the pre-built league is designed really for you to dive in, start your career, and learn the game in parts. But if you're creating teams, all right, so offense and defense are team ratings, right? They're identity ratings. And then we have secondary ratings. And that's going to be field goal, return, and then we're going to have punt and coverage, which is punt coverage, right? So I put them together. I put field goal, as a kicking unit, and then I put return. Although it has nothing to do with field goal, return is an offensive thing. Punt and punt coverage go together, and then we have security for offense, ball security, and we have takeaway for defense. So you could do those as sub ratings. So you could do on a card. So on my team charts, I have offense, and underneath that I have security, and then I have defense, and I have under that takeaway. So it's a secondary rating, right? Offense, security, defense, takeaway. And then because I know field goals are technically a plus rating and returns are an offensive rating, I put them over here on this side. And because punts and coverage are technically defenses, I put punt and cover over here, and that's all my ratings. I have 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's my team in a nutshell. Okay, so I can put up here Washington, Lawman, and we're 33, 1933. Cash down here on the bottom, cash, $2. For the most part, I track everything on a main team sheet because I put down my starting players. But a lot of times I transfer the team data over, so when I play the games, I can just set them in a small space right in front of me. Right, but on the back, I can put my quarterbacks, my punters, my place kickers. Okay, so we set the league. Finances would be what I would advise going into creation. Make sure you know whether you're doing a prosperous league, a normal league, or a tight league. We're doing a tight league. So I have $2 cash for this team. And I went ahead and named my coaches, yet I haven't rolled them up yet. Okay, so we're done with that D20, and my coaches are named. Okay. By the way, this is page 28. There's coach quality here, and there's also the cost of things during the off season. Okay, so I could roll my coaches up right now. So let's go ahead and do that. My offensive coach, my head coach, 6. Wow, excellent, +1. Okay, Mercer. Now, Dell really wants people to visualize that you're the commissioner, but also keep in mind the idea of chronicling, whether you're tracking box scores by using highlights or chronicling it, or chronicling team creation. And so he'll mention at times during the game about chronicle. All chronicle means is, that's kind of important, and you might want to make a note of that as special for that team. So he implies here he doesn't tell you the plus here. The plus is in the team creation, you know that they're pluses, but he implies that you would refer to the coach as excellent, not +1. So he's using terms. So this is an excellent coach, right? He wants you to chronicle it and see things as actual adjectives, so to speak. But I always note the math because I'm going to need it. Okay, Leo Mercer. Okay, now understand the coach rating. Okay, coach rating will cause a shift up or down on the unmodified staff charts. So when you build a staff, I get to modify this now, right? So when it comes to making staff hirings, I get to modify based on my head coach's +1, right? So now when I roll up my other staff, I get to add 1 to this, right? So here we go. Leo Mercer is a 5. He's good. So he's going to be +1, and he's good. Ben Keegan, my defensive coordinator, is average, +0. I'm doing this a little out of order because I'm on this page, but it won't hurt to go ahead and find out your coach's ratings early. But if you use the random creation, you won't get to coaches till this next page. And Art, this is my special teams coordinator. He is average. Okay, I'll show you my sheet when I'm done. All right, so what's important here? All right, I'm going to come back here. Now, remember, I'm using what's called the hard financial winner in my league, my personal league. There are rules for your leagues here you can choose to add to your seasons, but I'm not going to do anything special for this tutorial. All right, so on page 37 of my book, again, my page numbers may be slightly different than, because this was the very first PDF. So I literally put this on Lulu, put on my own cover, and I printed, I made a coil and I had it printed and sent to me before we had published it. So my book might be a little different than the books out there that are floating around. So, right. Okay. So again, we have 8 ratings. We have offense, defense, field goal, punt coverage, return, ball security, and takeaway. And you want to see, again, ball security and takeaway is a kind of attached to offense and defense. Okay. However, they are secondary ratings. So you might want to write all secondary ratings separately because those will change with coaches. Your offense and defense ratings will there is a rule, but most of those ratings will never change. So your core ratings only change, or I should say your ratings only change when a coach changes. So if you fired a head coach, for instance, all your ratings would change. So with the head coach, you basically redo everything, okay? But the head coach doesn't modify the creation charts. So be very careful. The head coach only affects staff, okay? All right. So we have our coaches. We have them named. We have them rated. Now, remember, when you create the teams on page 38 and you start their identity roles and their flaw roles, and then you do your confirmation checks, you do not use the head coach here. However, when you do your secondary ratings, you're going to use all your assistant coaches to rate your secondary stuff. So we'll get to that. But let's finish creating the team, and then we'll pretend a season, and we'll do an off season really quick. Okay. So this is the big one. This is the identity role, and this is going to give us a chance. And again, Dell talks about chronicling at times during the game. All chronicling means is try to think of a narrative reason or detail and make note of that because it'll give your team's personality and it will remind you through your history this team has always been a great offense or whatever, right? Okay, so this role is going to give us an identity. We don't know yet what, but it will give us an identity. That identity can be affected by the flaw charts. It could be affected by confirmation charts. So I would write everything down in pencil before we, finish the creation. All right, so what kind of identity does this Washington Lawman team have? It's 4. They're going to be a return team +1 marked for secondary role. Okay, so their return, right, is +1. But I want to make note of this. I want you to read this carefully. +1 marked for a secondary role. So later, when I roll the secondary rating, I'm going to add that +1 to the die roll, plus my coach, to determine what the actual rating is. So my rating is not a +1. I'm going to get a bonus when I actually create that rating. Okay? So I'm going to make a note here. Our ID, this is your team ID. They're a return team. In other words, they've got an all-star punt, field goal, kickoff and punt returner. So you could name this guy. I would say, okay, we got an old All-American halfback, kick and punt returner. So I'm already right. So the team ID is we have an All-American halfback, kick and punt returner. So again, I'm already thinking about the players and how this team got to have a reputation, identity team. So imagine if your very first star player that they were using to sell tickets in 1933 come see Gale Sayers, the country's greatest, most exciting kick return man, right? That he might be selling tickets for your club. So you're doing more than just generating ratings. You're generating a world. You're generating how this owner might sell this team to the fans. So we have an All-American, and I'm going to give him a name, Joe Klein. And he'll be a halfback. And that's going to give me a +1 to my secondary role later. But make note of it. I'm done with that. I don't roll this chart again. Okay? Now we have to do a flaw. Now, flaw can confirm that, or it can cause something else. So a flaw could be a big deal here. Let's find out. 2, soft defense. This can block a defense +1 on the identity up here, or core confirmation. So if I had rolled +1 defense here, I would make a note that our identity is a +1 defense. However, I would have just rolled a soft defense, which would have negated that. And that soft defense just guarantees now we are a 0 defense. Even when I confirm here, that might reverse it. So we don't want to write it down in hard format. But right now, there's a block on my defense. So I'm going to put soft, and I'm literally going to use the term soft defense at the bottom of my team sheet. I'm making a note of my ID. So we have a great return team, great return man. But we got a soft defense. And again, why he uses terms is he wants you thinking that way. But also, it's easier for me to say soft defense than it is to write down this whole trait. So I just jot soft defense. I already know that it could block my +1. Okay, now we're on to what are called confirmation checks. We got confirmation of a weak offense or /soft defense. If either of these things have occurred, I need to roll a 1 to 3 and it holds. A 4 to 6 and it doesn't hold. Okay, so if I roll a 1, 2, or 3, our soft defense will lock in my defense at +0. Okay. 6, no. So guess what? That's a question mark. So I put soft defense question mark, meaning it doesn't hold, right? And now I know that if I roll my core strength happen to be defense, I'll get a +1 defense despite there being questions. So imagine as your owner and your coaches and your GM are putting your team together, they're talking about the defense on the blackboard. You know, the coaches and the owners are sitting around a meeting room, and they're trying to select their starting defensive players, and they're talking about the holes in their own defense. Well, you know, guys, we may have a soft defense here, and they shuffle the players around on a magnet board, trying to come up with the best starting group. And you know, as they do, and they shuffle stuff around, the aha moment hits. No, if we move Jones to middle linebacker, we're going to be okay. And so they figure out, hey, you know what? We're not as soft as we thought, right? So again, there is this idea that you're not just building a team, you're composing a history for your league and your teams, right? All right, so now we do the final roll, which is when to roll core strength only if your offense and defense are 0s. So both my offense and defense are 0s. I haven't created an offense, and I dodged a bullet with my confirmation defense. So now I get to roll core strength. If either one of these were already 1s, then I do not roll core strength. So core strength only occurs if my offense and defense are currently 0. So now I get a chance to get a 1 to 3, my offense is good. A 4 through 6, my defense is good. If my defense had been blocked, I would need a 1 through 3 to get something for this team. This team could conditionally start its career at 0-0. But I'm lucky enough that I'm going to get one or the other. So while the Washington Lawmen will have a +1 somewhere. They are going to have a +1 defense. And not only that, as they rearrange those magnetic names on the chalkboard, and they have an aha moment that they could put, they could put Jones and Phillips on defense, and that would give them a strong defense. So we actually have a +1 defense. I'm going to write it now in my actuals. So that's locked now. My defense is decided. Now what that means is now I have a +0 offense. So I know my offense is also +0. So the two most important ratings for pre-game matchup drive chart scoring potential is set. So the two most important ratings, 0 offense and defense, are set, right? Okay, so now we have our coaches. So now all I have to do is, by the way, I have an excellent coach, so I'm going to want to chronicle this guy. Again, he gets, and this is just for flavor. Remember, chronicling is just for flavor. I rolled up an excellent coach. I'm going to make a note of that. That he was a NCAA champ head coach. So he came over to take control of this new professional team, having just won the national championship for Notre Dame or Army or something, right? So maybe he is literally coming from winning the national title for the third time in 10 years for Army. So Walter Donovan is going to be a very important figure in the early days of this league. He is and you got to remember, college football in the early era was far more popular and more respected than pro football. College football, historically, there was a period in history where that changed, where finally pro football became more of the fan favorite. But there was a time where pro football was viewed as mercenary. You don't play pro ball. If you're a great All-American in college, you don't play pro ball. You go on and do something else, kind of thing. So you go on and become the CEO of a car company or a Wall Street broker or something. So Walter Donovan would be, it would also be a bit of a, it would be a huge headline. Army's three-time national championship head coach accepts the job as the head coach of the Washington Lawmen. And that would be a huge conspiracy, because Army, or whoever, let's say Notre Dame, I don't know, I can't think of a team right now, Michigan, maybe Michigan in 33. Number one, you'd be leaving the most popular ranks for a mercenary league. That would also be seen as sacrilege, right? So it's going to make the papers for those reasons. So Walter Donovan is a former NCAA champ. Of course, I don't even know if it was the NCAA back then. Collegiate champion, etc. All right. So, but we do have our offensive coordinator. He is good. +1. I get to add 1 for my ball security. So now, offensive coach, it says on page 39, is ball security. So he's in charge of ball security only. If he gets fired or he leaves, or we hire a new one, we're going to re-roll ball security. This is an off-season thing, right? But this is it. I get to add 1 to this. Let's hope it's good. So 2 + 1 is 3. It's average. So our ball security is +0. Okay, defense. Our defensive coach is a 0, so I don't get to add at all. And it only handles takeaway. Ooh, -2. So our takeaway is -2. Okay. That's not necessarily bad, folks. The -2 is actually good, I believe. Oh, now remember, my book might be, remember we talked about this on the danger charts, etc. Those numbers are reversed on my charts. So that -2 on these charts is good. It's going to be not so good on the this was like the first draft. So, okay, and last but not least, the special teams coach. And I would argue the special teams coach is the most valuable coach, because he's responsible for field goal, punt, coverage, and return. So the special teams coach is responsible for 4 of your secondary ratings, which means to me they are, one coach is worth 1/2 of your team. So you got your head coach, which only affects staff. Your OC only affects security. Your DC only affects your takeaway. Those are your first. Those are the first 4. The next 4 are all affected by one man. So you really want a good special teams coach. We happen to have an average special teams coach. So field goal is +2. Hot damn. So we got a brilliant field goal kicker, right? 4. We've got return man of 0. But we already know, whoops, excuse me, I had an ID, a team ID of +1, so actually 5. 5 is +1. So we actually turned this into a +1 because I had a bonus. Right? And I can put in parentheses my chronicle, again, my All-American Klein, right? Joe Klein. So, because I chronicled my team identity as having an All-American halfback kick returner, Joe Klein, who gave me a bonus of +1 to this die, gives me a 5 +1, so he's a +1. So I put in there a Klein, noting my team my team ID. Okay, punt. Let's see what he does with punt. 2. It's going to be a -1 punt, and coverage is 0 +0. So that's it. My team is made. Oh wait, schedule range. Got to do our schedule range, and then we're going to have what's called SR. This is how well the Washington Lawmen can draw teams to their house. 1. Ooh, yeah. So what would 1 be? Well, 1 would be in an early league, one would be quite literally the fan base, but one would also be literally the size of the stadium. So you can imagine Washington says their general manager, their owners on the horn trying to get teams scheduled, and they're like, we don't want to come out there to Wellington Mara Stadium. That seats only 3,200 people, dude. Even if you sell it out, we're not gonna make but $89, right, on the season. So it could be a tiny little stadium that has zero profit in it. Teams want exposure and they want to make money, so they're not going to go. Or maybe Washington just has no fan base, right? They're only about 150 to 300 people show up per game. There's just no money in that, right? Okay. So they're going to have a hell of a time getting teams to come to their house. That's what the schedule rate means. Okay. So let's take a look at this team before we simulate a season. When I say simulate, I mean we're just going to pretend. Okay. All right. So first of all, my league is tight, which means we have $2 in cash. It's 1933. We're the Washington Lawmen in Washington, D.C. I'll put here D.C., District of Columbia, right? So this is a D.C. team, D.C. Lawmen. Head coach is Walter Donovan. He's excellent. That's a Chronicle note. He's the former NCAA champion. So him coming is a huge coup. It's a huge steal for the team and the league. But it's also going to be a bit controversial for Donovan as he's leaving the more respected college ranks. He hires Leo Mercer, OC, probably a former quarterback of his or something, right? Tailback. He's good, +1. He hires Ben Keegan, probably a former linebacker of his back in the day. He's average. And then his special teams coach, Art Harlan, is also average. His offense comes out okay. I mean, 0 again is no bonus. There's not really a negative. It's just you're not going to be strong. So all 0 means is that's not a strength. 1 means it's a strength. So the great thing about the teams is you're not going to see teams that are negative, right? But despite a soft defensive question from the staff, when they sat down and they looked at the roster and they shifted around their chalkboard and they discussed whether guys could play both ways and who was going to be best at middle linebacker, and they worked it all out, they got out on the practice field, they put those guys together, they ran some practices, and they not only did they realize it's not going to be soft, it turns out it's a team strength. All right, and then we go on to find out during practice we have a brilliant place kicker, and I would name this guy +2. Now here's the problem with naming this right now. Art Harlan could be lost in the next season, and I have to automatically re-roll all these. So if Art Harlan were to quit or be fired or whatever reason gone, I have to re-roll all these special teams ratings. So I don't know if I want to tie a name, star name to this. I could have a guy who's my place kicker for 10 years, and the field goals could go up and down, and the one man is still responsible for the points, right? Okay. But we do know that our team ID is a brilliant return man, All-American halfback kick returner Joe Klein. It's a +1. Now again, even if Harlan were to be fired and I had to re-roll all these and this turned out a negative, I still get to add a +1. So I'm always going to have, in this team's history, I will always have a +1 roll to my return. That's why it's an ID. And then soft defense turned out to be inaccurate. So that really doesn't matter ever again, right? Unless I fire my head coach, and then I'm going to be redoing all of that. Okay, +1 ID. So what Dell doesn't say explicitly in my book, but he might in the final version. I can't recall. I think he does. I think he mentions in one of these gold boxes. I think he mentions that basically, again, that's why I say you got to remember, take it literally. The head coach influences all your hirings here. All of these guys influence your ratings. But if you fire any coach, you have to re-roll ratings. So the logic is when you fire your head coach, you not only have to replace your staff, but you're going to have to redo your entire team. So technically, firing a coach is a chance to remake your entire team. But it costs you money. So I want to get to that in the offseason. You can't just willy-nilly fire your coach and redo all of these guys because you have to pay money for them. But that is how. So people ask, how do we change these core ratings? Well, you have to fire your coach. That's the simple rule. Okay. So technically, Washington's done. We know the names of our coaches. I haven't given them names of players or anything, right? I kind of have an identity. This team has already got a fantastic history. Somehow the owner of Washington lured away Walter Donovan from, let's say, again, I can't think of maybe Michigan or something, right? He brought over Leo Mercer, his former tailback, All-American tailback, to coach the offense. And he was able to get All-American halfback, punt and kick returner from his former college team to become a pro. Talked him out of taking a job at Rainbow Insurance to become a top vice president at an insurance company, and was able to talk him into playing football. And that, in a nutshell, is early American professional football history, what I just outlined. We already have a fascinating history. We haven't played a game. Okay? All right, so let's assume that they have a... hold on one second. Well, let's assume... Hold on. Jenny?
Yeah.
I gave him his pills.
Okay.
Don't give him...
What about Penny? Did she?
I did not feed her.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
And did you give him half that one?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, I'm sorry about that. My wife's getting up. And our dog had oral surgery, had a couple of teeth removed yesterday, and so we have to give him pills. And he gets up with me, so I gave him his pills. I didn't want my wife to double dose our dog, so I had to interrupt this tutorial. That's also, folks, just a little tutorial on how to take care of your responsibilities. You know, your animals, your kids. You know, you want to communicate with your wife or partner, significant other that you've already treated your children or your dogs, so we don't accidentally OD them, right? Okay, so it's a little bonus tutorial on taking care of your animals and your children, etc. Okay, so even in the middle of such a crucial video, sometimes you gotta stop to take care of business. All right, so we know Washington lawmen, they're done, they're built, they're ready to rock and roll. Okay. So let's assume it's a small league. There's only 4 other teams, and they're going to play 6 games. And I'm going to say this team gets 2 home games, and they manage to somehow they get 2, but they somehow manage to, because with a 1, they're probably not going to see a lot of easy home games. So let's say they manage to get 2 home games, and they're going to be on the road away 4 of the 6. Okay, so we got a balanced schedule. However, they unfortunately are on the road 4 times, which means they're going to get a bonus in money, a league bonus in money. Okay, all right, now let's assume at home, this is a pretty good team, good defense, field goal's fantastic, return team is really solid. They do have a poor takeaway, but geez, their ball security is good. So let's say at home they win these 2. These are 2 wins. So I'm going to put win. And let's say on the road, they lose, tie, and tie. So that means they're going to finish the season 2, 2, and 2. So they're literally a 500 team. Okay, now let's go back here and let's find our finances. All right. Where is it? I just want to make sure I find our finances. Okay, here we go. All right, here it is. Okay, so we're in a tight early league. We know we started with $2. Our cash cap is 6. What that means is, as this team wins and earns money, beyond the cash cap, they have to basically give all their other cash away to the league, right? To some extent, they can keep 6. So no matter how much money this team earns and has in the bank, the max they're allowed to keep is 6. That's just caps how much money would be expendable to a team, so it doesn't get out of hand over the course of the year. So in 10 years, they might have 80, And that's like, well, dude, you're never gonna have a money problem. So you got to cap it. All right. Replacement cash. That's if you have to replace the team, right, or replace the coach, etc. Or where's it at? It does talk about replacement. Here it is. Generate a replacement club from the appendix. So if this team, for instance, wanted to relocate, Washington said, man, we're not making it in Washington. Let's move. That would be, in a way, creating a replacement club, right? I think that's what he means. I'm pretty sure that's what he means. I might be wrong about what he means by that, but that's the only other place I see the term replacement is in this box here. So I'm assuming it's referring to replacing the team, but expansion cash and then hard default folding pressure, right? So it's just a hard, in other words, tight early leagues are going to be hard for the commissioner because it puts such restraints on money. Okay, so that just means it's hard. It's like the hard variant of the rules. Okay, so first of all, let's see how we finish. Well, did we finish the champion or a 650 winning percentage? No, so we're not success. There's no success or poaching tier for us this year. Were we below 500 for 2 straight years? No, so there's no pressure, but there could be a cash crisis. We're going to get to that. So now the third thing is, are we in a cash crisis, selling, moving, rescuing, or there ownership change? Then we need to look at crisis/sell. And then there's no trigger, meaning this team right now, unless they have a cash crisis, I'm going to be basically done with them for the off season. So what does cash crisis look like? Well, operating expenses are $2 per game. We played 6 games. That's $12. So we had going out. Where's my cash? I'm going to put here my ledger, right? So I'm going to have a ledger. And for those who know double entry accounting, right, you're going to have both sides of the ledger, right? We're going to have going out. This is going to be costs minus 12. It's what it cost us just to operate, right? Okay, but our backing +1 for a road guarantee. So everybody gets a +1 for the road guarantee. So RG +1. However, this team's special. They had an imbalance on the road of 2 games. So we actually get another +2. So this would be our bonus, road bonus. We're 2 games off. So we're going to get, technically we're 1 game off, because if I had been at home one more time, so actually 1, so we're +1, sorry. We're a half a game off. So we get another +1 for our road bonus. So we were paid a little more because of an imbalanced schedule. Operating expenses -12 for per game, so $2 per game, right? Okay. Wins, we won 2 at home. That's 8. So home wins +8. Remember, a home win is worth 4. Come back here. Home win is worth 4. So that's 8. That's +8. We had 2 losses away. Let's see here. That's going to be 4 more. So we're going to get away losses +4. And we also tied on the road for 2 more. 2 of those give us 2 more. So this would be road ties +2. So let's add up all of our money now. So we are road guarantee, that's $1. Road bonus for being imbalanced, that's $1. That's $2. Home wins, $8. That's $10. Away losses, another 4, because we're paid we're paid a percentage of the profits to play in somebody else's house, right? So that's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And last but not least, 2 road ties makes it 15, 16. So again, we're going to be at the +16 -12 is our total overhead. We are going to earn, so this team earns for year 1 4 cash. Okay? So let's go back over here to staff review. Were we the champion or a 650 plus winning percentage? We were not, so we do not use success or poaching. Remember, success actually is going to hurt you In the teams will hire your staff away. Colleges will come snatch your coaches away. Other teams in your league or other leagues were going to hire your own guys away. So having success is a double-edged sword. You're going to lose coaches. Okay, so you can't ignore what's called poaching. There are teams that are going to come and steal your coaching talent. Okay, below 500 or two straight losing seasons. Well, we're at 500 and no losing seasons, so we aren't under pressure, and we have $4 million in cash or $4 in cash. So we do not have a cash crisis. Do we have a cash crisis? No. Do we have a sell? No. Are we moving? No. Are we rescued? No. Are we in ownership change? No. Do we have a cash crisis then? No. So then that would be no trigger. None of these things happened. No trigger. We're going to retain our staff automatically. We'd never have to roll. So this team finished season 1 at 2-2-2. It cost them $12 million to operate. That would be paying coaches. That would be travel. That would be paying the players. All your expenses are $2 a game. So the longer your schedule, the more expensive the league, right? And then our results at home and away, etc., are all right here. We ended up making $4, which again you might want to see that as 4,000 in 1933 or 400. I don't know what you want to do, but we purposely keep it simple dollars so it's easy on the lay person to do their off season. We don't want to turn this into a game of calculators, right? So Washington lawmen, I would argue, in 1933, in an economically tight league, which would be the Great Depression, where we're coming out of the Great Depression, right? I can't remember when the Great Depression ended. 39? Shoot, 29 to 39, 29 to I can't remember. Damn. Long story short, it's a tight economic world. I don't think you can say that. It's a tight economic situation in the country. So our team started with $2 million. We ended up with a solid coach. We stole a great coach from national champion Michigan. He brought over his All-American tailback to be his offensive coordinator. Brought over former players, basically, right? And then, of course, we go on to build a defense that's damn good. We have a great place-kicking unit right now. Our return man identification for our team, historically, we will always be a +1 ID return man. So in our history, we will always have a bonus when we're building our return team. It happens, though, that it's chronicled as a former All-American halfback. He's our punt and kick returner, so he's going to be special. I'm going to note him in my articles and in my box scores, as we have a great coach and we have a great return man. We ended up in a 6-game schedule. Unfortunately, we only got 2 at home. We won both of those. That led to $8 million. We went on the road 4 times. It means we get a bonus for being imbalanced. But we went. We had a losing record on the road, but fortunately, it still added up to us making another $6. All told, we ended up making $4 profit plus our 2. We will have $6 million to start 34. So 1934, we will have $6 million in cash. By the way, our cash cap is $6 million. We do not have to give away any money, and we could, if we wanted to, attempt to hire new staff. Would cost money. Because we had no trigger, we get to retain our staff at no extra cost. So this team has been built. We have written their history, we have written their chronicle of how they were built, who these people are, what their strengths are, what their identity is. We have determined they had a soft defense in early practices. They started to shuffle the roster around. They started to make changes. They ended up going, I don't think it's going to be soft. By the time they started games, they knew they had a brilliant defense. Right? They went on and went 2-2-2. That's respectable for the first year. They made $4. They finished with 6. The owner of the Washington Lawmen, despite having a crappy little stadium, did damn well. And you'd want to probably give all credit to this All-American on defense. Again, halfback was a defensive term back then. They covered half the field as a defensive back. So this All-American halfback kick and punt returner, not only did he bring clout to your ticket sales, he brought strength to your return game, but more importantly, that Klein also made that defense great. So I don't have to play a single game just to write a narrative about these guys. I just sized up their ratings, sized up what they had, and said, they probably, might finish 2-2-2. I mean, I'm going to play my games, but you can see you could have a game where we just roll a die based on ratings to simulate their record and be telling stories about these teams. So, done, right? Tutorial, we created Washington. We pretended the season results. We did our cash flow. We checked all of our triggers to see if anything special happens on these charts. On page 27, nothing was triggered. So we just do our ledger, our cost versus our earnings, right? Earnings are overhead double entry, right? We have our costs and our earnings. We earned 4 more than we spent, and we added it to our cash, and we have 6, and we do not have to give away any extra to the league. How about them apples? And that's our tutorial for this, including a break to share taking care of your animals when you're giving them, dispensing pharmaceuticals to your animals. And there it is, folks. I want to remind people, again, I have the very first, I don't even know if anybody on the planet, I literally put this together so I could get it as fast as possible and start sharing it and playing it. So the version that was published is a step better than this, right? So know that. So my page numbers might be a little off, and some of the terminology he may have changed, etc. But know this. Rule 1 for this particular game of Dell's, and I would say all the Dell's games, but this particular game, follow the steps, and it is literal. So if he doesn't say something, right, just move on to the next step, and that next step should influence what you might be asking, right? So boom, boom, boom. And in my book, it doesn't say explicitly that all of these things are tied together. So when you fire an OC, you got to re-roll ball security. When you fire a head coach, you got to re-roll the entire team. And that means your coach is everybody. If you're going to close the team down, you're going to create a whole new team somewhere else, right? So remember, this team creation portion of the game, Appendix A, I believe it's called in the book. Mine doesn't say Appendix A. It says Appendix Random Club Generation, but I believe in the final version it says Appendix A. But Appendix Random Club Generation, when you're going to follow this literally, starting here, do your checks, their confirmation checks. Then you're going to roll up your coaches, and then you're going to influence your secondary ratings, and you're going to set your schedule and your build. And then you're going to play all your games out. You're going to schedule them as you go, or you can pre-season schedule, or as he uses here, use a round robin balance schedule, and all teams will get a full normal schedule, and it won't be confusing. And then at the end of that, you're going to tally your costs. You're going to tally your you're going to check your triggers for off-season failures or off-season poaching. That's going to influence whether you can hire new coaches or whether you have to randomly hire coaches. And then you can spend cash toward those things, right? So in this one, we didn't have to spend any money. My team is completely, so 1933 and 1934 will look identical. Nothing will change for this team in the first year. So they're solid. They're going to have a chance now to build on this for the next year. But the other 3 teams in the league may change drastically, right? So there you have it. That's it. But again, I just want to make a note. All of Dell's games are this way, but this game in particular, Dell, you want to follow the steps. And as you are informed by, as you read a step, even if it's a little confusing, you move on to the next step. It should inform maybe the questions you have on the first step, right? And there you have it, right? Which is why Dell was so formal about doing this game in the modules. Play everything in order. Learn this game. And that's going to actually empower you, not inform you, but it's going to empower you later on what kind of homebrew tweaks you could make to the game and know that you won't break it. So for instance, he doesn't say explicitly firing a coach requires you to re-roll everything, but it is implied in how he builds teams. So it's in my book, it doesn't say that, but I understand that if a head coach goes, everything changes, because he does say implicitly that you only change the ratings that are tied to coaches. So I know that if my DC leaves, I have to change takeaways, right? I have to build a new coach, and then I have to roll a new takeaways. But There's nothing else dependent on that. So any coach who leaves, you have to create a new one, and you have to re-roll everything tied to that coach, which means what is implied in that? When my head coach leaves, I have to redo all my coaches, and I have to redo my entire team. So those who are worried, how does your offense and defense change if there's no coaches tied to that? Well, there is one, Walter Donovan. If Walter Donovan is fired or leaves or whatever reason, then I would re-roll all my staff and all my team. Right. What I would never re-roll, Washington lawmen are known for a great return game. They will always. So Washington, their team ID is a +1 return to all return rating roles, not to the return rating, to their roles to build a return team every season, right, that they need to. You don't change any ratings unless coaches change. So it's that simple, right? Just remember, if coaches change, the ratings tied to those coaches must change. If none of this changes, then none of this changes, right? So Washington lawmen are going to be building momentum. They're not going to lose any staff. They're not going to lose any players, technically. I mean, they would lose players naturally, but nothing that would influence this team. And I'm going to basically play this exact team in year 2. And that's how Gridiron's off-season works. So hopefully this helps. If there's any questions, put them in the comments. I'll try to answer them directly. But thank you for watching. Bye-bye.